What's up, everyone? Welcome to Miners Oasis. I am the Bitcoin Broski here today with Whale Bearman, Crypto Chris Walken, and our special guest, Oscar Lafarga. How you guys doing?
What the fuck's up, man?
Doing good.
There we go. There we go. Back up from this mic a little bit. So, Oscar, thanks for coming on the show today, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
It's always good to have a fellow Floridian in the house. Dude, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, those who don't already know about you?
Oh, yeah, we'll do. So I, like you mentioned, I'm from South Florida. I, at my core, I'm an engineer, like solving problems, always math, science kind of guy. I went over to USC, studied electrical engineering, and kind of got my hands software about halfway through college. So it was like maybe four or 5 years ago. And, I'm super just self-taught. Like, I don't know, wouldn't be going to lectures. I just like reading the book, finding the information online. Like, that's how I've always lived my life. So, I started my own startup with a friend. It was a music app. And, we were trying to make it all work throughout college. After college, we did like Silicon Valley startup style. We all shoved 6 to 10 guys into a house. 4 bedrooms. You just take turns on the mattresses, like just grind. So, that's where I learned the entire stack, I guess, of software development. So front end, back end. Whenever something broke, like I was the guy. I was the CTO. So like I really went through the trenches when it comes to building software. And then, so we were trying to make the business model work. And, I don't even have to get into it, but we built an app for the retailers we were trying to work with, the artists that we were trying to work with, and then, nothing really worked. But by the time we built all these apps, we were like, wait, why don't we just sell building apps? And so software consulting was our kind of final move there. And we just decided to start selling those services. Got one client, got another client, over the years. That's been a couple of years, maybe 2-3 years now. And that's what I professionally have the most experience doing, is just building apps, designing software architecture, things like that. And got into Bitcoin in 2016. I knew about it in 2015. A friend of mine from MIT introduced me from like the cryptography side of it. But I won a hackathon, the Miami Bitcoin hackathon. Won that in 2016. And that was like crazy. I was like sleep deprived. They announced our first place. It was a $10,000 grand prize in Bitcoin, which was like $400 Bitcoin at the time. So did not hang on to that. Had to sell to cover business expenses, but I try not to think about it. But yeah, that was kind of when I really started getting into it and just learning more and more about it over the years. And then obviously 2017 blew up. People who I hadn't talked to, and you start hitting me up. Oh my God, you've been talking about Bitcoin this whole time. Like, tell me more. So yeah, that's basically my background. Software engineering is my thing, and now I'm shifting my focus to education. I'm working like on a curriculum that's designed to help people who kind of are intimidated by software and maybe just technology in general. I'm just putting together some courses to appeal to that kind of audience. And so that's what I'm focusing on these days.
Perfect. Well, guys, I know that normally we kick the show off, and Walken, I'll pass it over to you for this. We usually talk about some equipment deals that we've got going on, or that we've seen going on, I should say. We're not selling anything, so sorry for that. But Walken, do you have anything that you've spotted lately you want to pass on to the folks?
Yeah, so there's a couple of deals that have been going quick. Yesterday, I tweeted out a 580 that was like $123. I think it sold out in like 10 minutes. Yeah, and then right now they've got the good old AS Rock H110 BTC Plus for $70 on Amazon right now. So that's a crazy deal. A bunch of power supplies are on sale, but other than that, just I keep telling people to raid eBay right now. There's still a lot of miners trying to sell their shit, so there's 580s going for like 130, 120 bucks right now on eBay. So that's where I'm shopping if I'm looking.
What's your word of advice for people trying to unload ant miners right now?
Good luck. Like I joked about the other day, in China, you get a free S9 with a bowl of ramen. So that's where we're at.
Well, guys, I know we've kind of talked about a loose format for the show today. A couple of things that we wanted to discuss. One thing that I think we should just kick things off with right away is Lightning Network. Obviously, you know, Oscar, you being on the show and us talking about Lightning, it's something that is at the forefront of everyone's thought that's really looking at this space moving forward. So I'd love to just get like a high level overview of what Lightning is and how it's going to benefit crypto as a whole and Bitcoin specifically.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, I mean, the Lightning Network, it's a project that's been in the works for quite a few years. It's like people like to think it's a new development, but you know, I don't forget exactly the year. I think the paper was written maybe in 2013, but like, you know, it's sort of as old as it needs to be for software to really kind of where you be as secure and robust enough to like run something as important as money. So that's one important element. It's not a new project that was fun, you know, that just raised funds last year and is taking advantage of the hype train. It's you know, it started off as a research project. It's a spec first and foremost. Just kind of defines, it's a protocol that defines what different types of data two computers should be exchanging between each other. And, you know, if you look at that on like that, that's where it started. It's just figuring out before you write any code what exactly it is that we're building. And so there's like 10 or 12 bolts. That's what they're called. I forget the exact acronym, but that defines just like as a specification level, what is Lightning Network. And then I think maybe as of a couple of years ago, the actual software development started. And a friend of mine is working at Lightning Labs. He's like heading the cryptographic engineering over there. So, you know, I've been drawn in more and more to figure out what they're doing. And so that's basically what you have is that's one implementation, one code base that follows the specs that I was just, you know, outlining. And I believe there's 2 or 3 other ones. One's developed by Blockstream. It's called C Lightning. One's developed by Async, I want to say. And, you know, they're written in different programming languages. It doesn't really matter. They're all interoperable with each other. They all follow the spec. And so just this year that, you know, the first couple of them just upgraded to like beta status. It's like, okay, it's not fully ready yet, but we're ready to, you know, start testing it in the public. So you've seen, you know, a huge amount of growth. I think they reached over $1 million worth of Bitcoin that got loaded into payment channels. And so when you talk about Lightning Network, it's layers. A lot of people have heard layer 2. So the idea here is that Bitcoin, in the 10 years that it's been around, it's good enough as a layer 1 solution. And we shouldn't be making drastic changes. We shouldn't be doubling the block size, for example. We want to be, it's reached a point where like we might only get one shot at this. So like you really want to go slowly. It's money. It's something that you want to make sure is very secure. So you want a lot of eyes on it. You want the best cryptographers, the best security engineers, just like reviewing this code over and over to make sure there's no holes in it. So that seems to be the consensus, is that layer 1 is pretty solid, hasn't been critically attacked by any central authority yet. That's a good thing for the space. We want decentralization. And so now layer 2 is where we want to look towards. And so basically, and stop me if you guys kind of have any questions or want to guide me in any direction here, but payment channels are basically, the idea is when you send a transaction on the Bitcoin network, that's for like the maximum security, the maximum trustlessness. I have no idea who you are. I do not trust you, but to you know, double spend or whatever it is, whatever vulnerabilities in the transaction that we are concerned about. I just want to send money to you, wait for enough time to pass for every single node in the world to get that transaction on their ledger. I want to be safe that that money has been sent. You actually have it. And, you know, I'm in no rush to settle that on layer 1.
So
layer
would like
2,
compare that to like an ACH transaction compared to like a wire,
yeah,
in a way.
Yeah, I guess. There's obviously some differences.
Yeah.
You just want to wait until there's just a level of finality. Like, there's no way there's an attack, a 51% attack going on.
Yeah.
Like, screw me in the end. I want to wait enough time. You have the money now. There's no disputing that. All the nodes have agreed. And so that takes time and effort on a technical level. Like, there's literally data that needs to go from my computer to your computer to every other computer in the world. Like, that's actual. There's a cost there, and there's a time factor that we just need to wait. There's no shortcutting that. It's got to get to every computer. So when you talk about the Lightning Network, we are scaling back the need to get that level of security. So, like, if you have friends or if you have people that you transact with frequently, you don't need every single node in the world to know that you sent a transaction, 5 seconds ago.
Right.
They'll figure it out eventually, but for right now, I open up a payment channel with you. We both, you have your Lightning node, I have my Lightning node. We open up a payment channel, and I can send virtually as many transactions as I want to you or maybe a small group of people, because we don't have to wait for the rest of the network to sort of be sure enough that, like, we can just transact between us. So it's just like reducing the level of security because you don't need it. And, the network, the rest of the network will eventually be notified of all these transactions that are going on.
So they're still
and if anything,
so this is still all publicly accessible on the ledger.
Right. So it's just like the thing about it is, if something goes wrong, like if all of a sudden I don't trust the people I have my payment channels open with, then something might happen where you guys try to go back on chain. You close the payment channel out, and
Is that why they have watchers?
Yeah, so that's a new thing that's not fully developed yet. It's actually, my friend I mentioned at Lightning Labs says he's working on that now. But so let's say you and I have a payment channel open.
Mm-hmm.
Over the course of a month, you and I, we send transactions back and forth to each other. The rest of the Lightning Network eventually figures out that we're kind of doing that, but it's really not important what the rest of the network is doing, just because you and I have a level of trust with each other. As soon as we decide to go back on chain, let's say that I disconnect my computer,
mm-hmm.
and, like, I'm on vacation somewhere, and all of a sudden you get the idea that you want to scam me, right? So, like, the trust is broken, and say I sent you 1 Bitcoin, and then so say you sent me 1 Bitcoin in exchange for whatever product or service, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go on vacation for a week, and you decide to go back on chain, saying that you did not actually send me that 1 Bitcoin. So I get screwed because I am out of my product that I gave you, mm-hmm. and I don't get my Bitcoin. So you went back on chain, broadcasting a previous state of the payment channel, and since I wasn't online to refute it, then I get screwed. So there are these watchtower ideas being built that will prevent that from happening. But at the current state of the network right now, you want to be online. If you try to go and say that you didn't send me that Bitcoin, cryptographically, there's security in place where I say, wait a second, I have a more updated state than he does,
right,
which actually says that he did send me the Bitcoin, and I can basically secure that money on chain. So you're trying to make one claim on chain. You're telling everyone on layer 1 that you did give me the 1 Bitcoin. I come and say, wait, he did, and mine's valid and yours isn't. So there's some cryptographic security there.
So with Lightning Network, and fellas, jump in with any questions. With Lightning Network, what would you say is the primary problem that it's aiming to solve?
The primary problem,
and if there's more than one, feel free.
There's plenty. One is obviously
to a newer person who's not familiar with this. I'm just trying to put it in a way that it'll make a little bit of sense. And your explanation is fantastic.
Cool, good to hear. So I'll go. I'll go with a couple important points here. One is just general scalability. Everybody talks about transactions per second, which is a bit, there's some misunderstanding on that. Just because, again, it's not the number of transactions. If I want to be sure that that transaction went to you on layer 1, it's the time element. It's like I want the fact that I want to wait until every computer gets it. So there's just no way around that, really. Where I'm saying transactions per second is important is because there's right now there's people making transactions on layer 1 that don't need to be on layer 1 because those two people trust each other and they're like, small amounts of money. So the fact that those people don't have an alternative, they have to go to layer 1, that's actually taking up space on layer 1. So there's more transactions that need to be processed by the network when, they didn't need the maximum security to make that transaction. So when you bring out all these transactions that don't need to be on layer 1 out onto layer 2, you free up a lot of room on layer 1. So it helps to scale a little bit more. You do get transactions per second, but at a separate layer. So you have theoretically unlimited transactions per second on layer 2, just because we don't have to wait for the entire network to get every single transaction.
So you're facilitating trusted transactions.
Yeah, so to facilitate trusted transactions that do not need the maximum trustlessness that layer 1 provides.
Sure.
So, we had the transaction fees skyrocket up in December. Like, we didn't have a layer 2 for people to, go off to when transaction fees get.
That's an important part too, because we know that some party was spamming the mainnet on Bitcoin with really minuscule amounts of transactions, right?
It seems that way, yeah.
We don't know for sure who or why they were doing it.
Do you have a theory behind it?
But what I'm saying is, if we get Lightning Network to work in a way, and you see that kind of activity happening, that it's a bad actor, right? What I'm trying to point at here is, how are we gonna take the layer 1 and then make it to where layer 2 is the go-to, payment channel for like everyone without leaving layer 1 open for attacks like that? I mean, because I know those attacks cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
But if layer 2 is there and they don't have to use it, they could still clog layer 1 up if it's not, if it doesn't really make any difference to them.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a separate problem, I guess. Lightning Network's not, I don't know if that they're setting out to necessarily prevent people from spamming layer 1. It's just, it's trying to incentivize people. Like there's lower fees on layer 2. So why would you go to layer 1? If you're just talking about an attack, like you really just
wasting money.
You're hoping, yeah. I mean, it's they have to pay some fee, right? You're definitely costing them something. So from that perspective, Bitcoin's not. There's still a chance. Bitcoin, those are Sybil attacks and denial of service attacks. Like if somebody's trying to attack Bitcoin, like we can only hope that it just remains as resilient as it is. And again, actually, do you really care if the layer 1's being spammed if you can just transact on layer 2? Yeah. I mean, you care less, but if there is an alternative for me to still send my transactions if somebody's attacking layer 1, that's better than not being able to send my transaction, right?
Yeah, and I agree with that. And
right?
I mean, one of the things on Lightning Network that I always have wondered about, and you kind of brought it up already, but it's for people who already kind of trust each other, or if something were to go wrong, you would know like who they are or where to go.
Right.
What's going to change in the future where this, because essentially the way that I envisioned it is that when you become a Lightning node or a payment channel, and someone joins you and you transact payments through them, you start to build trust, with the network, right? And then if you were to one day build a bunch of trust and then have these, basically a bunch of payments going through you, and then one day shut down and fuck up a bunch of payments. You know, how is that? Maybe it's too far in the future for right now, and I'm thinking like just way too far ahead. But I know that we talked about the watchers, but like, how is that going to be a scalability solution down the line where, you know, actually anyone can use Lightning Network without, you know, worrying about that?
Yeah. So no, it's good that this is the exact type, like this is adversarial thinking, right? Like, you know, when the solution that you think is the right answer is going to be subject to another problem in the future. So, I mean, to answer your question, I mean, I don't really know, right? We'll just always be problem solving as we go. But that's, I mean, so the first part of your question, or the first part of your comment was just kind of like, yeah, people today, or if you're opening Lightning channels up today, that's building like 2 years down the line. Are you going to trust somebody who just opened up a Lightning channel or trust somebody who's had one open for a couple of years?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of like, you know, incentive to just kind of open up a channel today. But as far as like how we would kind of solve like that, the solving problem like the one you mentioned, I'll just say that I think it's better than, or rather, it won't be any worse than what we have now because we could just always go to layer 1.
Yeah.
Like if this problem occurs on layer 2, we'll be able to fall back on something at least, which is what we have today. We'll just have to transact back on layer 1.
Yeah. I always try to think of it like if I'd never heard of any of this before, right? And somebody had explained this to me, what would it sound most like? And it kind of sounds like, and I know this is not what it's like at all, but it sounds like Venmo, right? It sounds like Venmo. It sounds like you've got 2 trusted parties, you send money, and there's a record of it that's able to be viewed by the public. Obviously, they're fiat, but just from a usability standpoint, a use case, that's what it sounds like. And for that, it raises a question with me as far as, you know, Bitcoin as a method of exchange, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, personally, I don't know that I believe Bitcoin is going to be used as a currency as much as I would like it to see used as a currency. I don't know that it's necessarily going to take hold like that. Is there a utility for the Lightning Network if, let's say, Bitcoin doesn't ever become a method of exchange?
Yeah, I think what it seems like the consensus is that the medium of exchange property will manifest itself on layer 2. That layer 1 is not meant to be. That's what, you know. And again, I would say that makes sense to me, and it's also what I've kind of been seeing in the community and the development roadmap as like kind of what makes the most sense. Is just like there's just way too many like you want both the store of value, you want slow, hard money, difficult to manipulate. You want that property of money, and that's like almost inherently incompatible with something that can process thousands, millions of transactions per second. And so like you can't have both without this sort of security measure that opening and closing channels allows. So I mean, from what I can tell, layer 2 is meant to open up the world of medium of exchange a little bit more for Bitcoin. So I agree with you. I don't think layer 1 is going to be where people are, you know, buying coffee.
Gotcha. You know,
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, Walt.
That's kind of what I was going to bring up. Was like, so my thought is that basically layer 1, you would use that for large transactions, right? People want to sell millions of dollars of Bitcoin or whatever. They want it all trusted. They want to send it that way. But like you said, right? Like stores, Starbucks, right? I want to buy a fucking cup of coffee. Lightning Network, done, right? A vending machine, stuff like that. Like I think that's going to be its biggest use case, and actually bringing, you know, adoption is going to be stores being able to use this, because especially with the cheaper transaction fees, that's going to be huge.
Right. It's trade-offs. It's like if I send $10 to Starbucks for you know a few coffees, consider it on their end. If something happens to that $10 and you know they lose $10, like what do they care? That's so tiny. And what we're doing is we're telling miners all over the world to hash the shit out of this block that contains $10 worth of our money. Where like if you lose it, if you know, we don't need to spend that much energy processing a $10 transaction. It's just like, you know, if you lose it, okay, we don't need that level of security. But if I'm sending $10 million, I want to make damn sure that everybody, the miners are hashing, enough energy has been like there's enough energy that's been consumed to secure that transaction. I want to bury that under all the energy and on all these blocks to make sure that $10 million has now been, you know, transferred from whoever I'm doing business with into my wallet. So, you know, and then, you know, with the block rewards having eventually, it's a very long timeline here, but like eventually transaction fees are going to be all, you know, going to incentivize miners. So those naturally have to increase if the block rewards are going down. On some level, I don't know. I think, you know, the price obviously helps with that. But fundamentally, the system is pointing towards that sort of idea, is that transaction fees on a long enough time will continue to grow because the block reward's going down.
So from a Lightning node perspective, what does that node actually do to the network? Like opening that payment channel, because I'm opening one right now. I still have my old node for, you know, the OG Bitcoin network, and I'm always going to run that. But I want to have one for Lightning Network. But what does that do? I've heard you can actually make money off of it as well if you open a payment channel and there's payments going through you in the future. But
so it's okay. So I'll carefully go through this because I like to think. So before I get into this, there's sort of like levels of understanding. This framework I have is like level 1 means like I get it and I can tell myself that I get it.
Yeah.
Level 2 understanding of something means I know it so well that I can give somebody else a level 1 understanding. So I can actually explain it. I can actually know what I'm talking about because I understand it that well. Level 3 is I know so damn well I can teach people how to teach people this topic.
Okay.
So as far as what I'm about to sort of attempt to explain on like Lightning channel, what a payment channel is actually doing, I'm not quite at level 2, so bear with me. But basically, when you open up a payment channel, you know what multi-signature transactions are?
Yeah.
It's just we just need 2. Yeah. You're basically, I think it's a 2-2 multi-signature transaction that you're making. So if I'm going to open a payment channel up with you, I'm basically giving you half of the right to send this transaction on chain. I still have the other key. So you can't just straight up run away with my money. But I am, again, I'm trusting, by opening up this channel, I'm trusting somebody else with another key to that Bitcoin, but in such a way it's gonna go one way or the other. Like it's not gonna get stuck there. So it's kind of 2 of 2, but like after enough time passes, either I'm gonna get the Bitcoin because that's the state of the channel, is that I still own that Bitcoin, and we're it's not gonna get stuck is the point. But that's what's happening on a fundamental level. And then as far as how you can make money off of this right now, this is like Satoshis that people are making. Like it's so small that I don't think it's financially a good option. But over time, I think there will be a market kind of created from this because, like I mentioned before, are you going to trust a payment channel that's been open for 2 years, reliably making transactions, or one that's just been opened? And so if you start now, you're going to have some leverage in the market down the line in order to capture speed.
So the benefit of opening a channel is the hopes that you get interconnected with other payment channels and you become trusted, and you therefore make the network more like a neural net in a way where it just becomes faster to send money everywhere. Theoretically.
So I think this idea of like a hub, so like you can just kind of throw up 10 Bitcoin. I mean, so the amounts are not that big right now. Like if you try to send money through the network, there's like a limit to the amount that you can actually send. So like if I send $1,000 in Bitcoin, the Lightning Network, you're not going to be able to find a path. And so by find a path, I mean, I was just mentioning that you open up channels with people that you know. That's kind of useless if I'm transacting for the first time with somebody that I've never met. So the way we solve that is if I'm connected to you, Connor, and Connor, you're connected to 3 other people, and one of those 3 other people happen to be the one that I want to transact with. Since we're part of the same network, you have that common node. I'm going to adjust the balances between our channel, and you're going to adjust the balances between that third person that we were talking about. Yeah. And then you're going to end up with the same amount of Bitcoin. I'm going to have less, they're going to have some more. So I'm going to effectively be able to route through you. That's only going to happen if you have enough liquidity in your channels with me and with those other people.
Yeah.
So if you have a lot of channels open with a lot of Bitcoin in them, that's going to make people who want to transact with someone they're not connected to, that's going to make you a lot more, valuable for those people. Because otherwise, I have to go on chain. Otherwise, I don't have any channel open with them. I have to go on chain or open a channel, which costs the same on chain transaction fee. So
I mean, that to me is the biggest point of this layer 2. Like, and people like say it's more centralized and stuff like that. And I mean, it is in a sense, but for what people want, which, what we talked about, faster transactions and these micropayments, like this is the way that you have to build a network that's still enough to decentralize in a way to where, the people still control it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the whole thing with centralization, right? It's the catch-22.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have both necessarily. I mean, eventually you may be able to work towards some kind of balance, but the way that things are now, there's no way to have a trustless system that also allows you a level of security in your transactions. I don't know. I think that the centralization thing is kind of becoming it's kind of becoming a meme for newer people. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's faster. Way faster.
It is. There's no way around it. If you have, like you're saying, if you've got a trusted transaction that can just go between 2 parties, as opposed to literally bouncing off of every node on the network, I mean, of course, that's more efficient. One thing I'd like to know, though, because not many people have like intimate experience in working on Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. What's that experience been like, man? Like since 2016 to now, right? Winning the hackathon, maybe you were doing a little bit before then. What's it like? What's it been like to work on that network?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's a lot more just raw engineering going on. So like, I almost see it as a positive, but like, I understand where my bias might be coming from, but like, these people are so absorbed in the code that they forget to advertise, they forget to market, they forget to, get people excited about it. Which, it's catch-22. Like if you get distracted by trying to shill your project and the work that you're doing, that might compromise the level of detail that you need to make sure that the software is secure. So I don't even know, it's kind of like this ambivalent feeling where like, okay, like, we're not getting, it doesn't seem like we're getting as much hype as we deserve, but it's because those resources are going to make sure, these things are secure, and like the actual quality of the software is benefiting from that. So like, it's kind of difficult to say whether it's a good or a bad thing. But there's definitely a lot that's just people, focusing on the code rather than trying to hype up the project. And then you also have a feel that's honestly perfectly understandably gets misinterpreted as like, negativity or just like sort of an aggressive attitude, like not welcoming, but it's this, this like real defensiveness and aggression towards anything that might compromise the security. So like if you try to introduce an idea that like seems harmless on the surface, people will just kind of come at you and say, oh yeah, well what if they'll give you the crazy scenario where you're a scammer and you're actually trying to exploit this vulnerability, and that's going to be bad for everybody. And so like just this adversarial thinking on like another level. And so like, again, it's good and a bad. It puts a lot of people off. It like, you know, it'll probably cause people to not look at the project again and think that Bitcoin is just like, oh, these guys are mean.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't like to you know, cooperate or yeah. But at the same time, like we're thinking through every scenario, like every we're gonna have fewer vulnerabilities. We're gonna have fewer exploits because of that attitude.
Yeah.
That the community has. So, you know, it gets a lot of flack for those two reasons, I think. But more than anything, it's just I'm just impressed. Like if you read through some of the pull request reviews and like the amount of the amount of discussion that goes on like the Bitcoin repo, it's just like next level. It's just like they're just, you know, going through everything. They just, it's like these huge paragraph upon paragraph of technical explanation. It's just like, oh, well, did you consider this and that? And like, oh, well, if you did it this way. And there's actually, it's very positive too. There's people complimenting, you know, oh, that's, you know, a great idea. It would be even better if we did this. So there's just a, you know, a very respectable level of developer collaboration that, again, doesn't get a lot of publicity because they're just so focused on it. But,
well, and I mean, there's something to be said for the fact that Bitcoin maybe isn't ready to market yet, you know, as a product. You know, you run the risk of any, I mean, traditional product. If you market too soon and you attract a bunch of people to a product that's inefficient or ineffective in its use case, then, I mean, you're only going to put people off permanently, like you mentioned before. And to your point about people thinking adversarially, with any organization, it takes days to implement something and forever to remove it. So anything that you let in, you might as well consider permanent, because to change it and take it out could be beyond problematic. So
yeah, no, it's definitely it's not invulnerable. Like, you know, there's definitely some potential attacks that are pretty risk. Like probabilistically speaking, you know, the United States has the resources to take down the Bitcoin network. You know, if it was targeted, they could do it. So, you know,
but I mean, they created it. So all right.
What's up?
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's how do you even know the science? How do you even know you're not being attacked right now? But yeah, I mean, it's just like a lot of like people feel like people don't appreciate what the end goal is. Like it's trying to be the global reserve currency. Like that's the end goal. Are we ready for that? I don't think so. So like this is a way, way long game. That's a huge, like there's no market cap bigger than money. Like every industry, everything that has ever generated value for any customer has a market cap that is a subset of
money.
Market cap of money. So like it's going for the biggest, and you know, takes time. You want to be careful.
So go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, and like that comes with, you know, like the New York agreement and really any kind of upgrade proposal that's ever came up. And it, like, from my experience, seeing the New York agreement fail and then having the Bitcoin Cash come out, and I don't want to get in too much politics there, but like I understood from that, like this is something that we spend money on. Like there's money on this, and you don't want there to be all these upgrades all the fucking time and people not understanding how, you know, there could be attack vectors on this upgrade. Like that is always you're opening the gate up every single time something changes. And when you don't study what you're changing and how someone might exploit it, and you just change things like that are core to the fundamentals, it blew my mind that it got that big. Like it was that confusing for people to see. Like I think it's just the way that people look at Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. They don't really understand that, you know, it's a protocol and how it is upgraded. You know, like people don't understand why there's a new coin if Bitcoin forks. Like I would say a lot of people that are in crypto.
Let's talk about that for a second, because that's important. I think that when it comes to forks, I mean, right now Bitcoin has what, like 17,000 of them. like Bitcoin private. What's that?
I can fork my own right now. Like it's just you copy the source code, right? You just copy the database. So yeah, there's.
Is that just a though? I mean, is that just a greed thing? I mean, is there validity in these forks? I know there's other people that are copying code and starting new projects. But what is the real benefit of a fork of Bitcoin?
Yeah, so here's the way I see it, and so I think what we saw with Ethereum and then just like kind of general competition and just like the flippening and like what's going to happen. Here's my reasoning for why that just doesn't. It's very unlikely that Bitcoin won't continue to be the chain, and that doesn't mean that other projects can't be compatible with like interoperability. We can get into a little later, but before that, this fundamentally is like people like to think, especially in the U.S. and just like general capitalist culture is just like, all right, competition's good for everybody because we'll fight it out and eventually prices come down to win customers over, and the most resources go to making the best product, and like that's just ingrained in our culture. That's the way we see it. There's evidence of that working, but the fundamental difference here is that effect came about because of just information being kept secret. So if I came up with a new technology and I developed it myself and I didn't tell anybody, I'm obviously going to have an advantage over people who don't know about it. And now the internet, information goes from one person's brain to everybody else's brain at the speed of light. So that advantage, especially when it comes to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, it's open software. All of the software engineers and security engineers are working on this project. How do you expect another project to come up with something brand new that none of the smartest guys in the world, thought of, and then have it compete while at the same time staying open source themselves? Because like everybody expects in this space for you to be open source and to be transparent about your activities. So how do you expect to come up with a competitive advantage to topple Bitcoin when everybody, you've got to be transparent about it? Like Bitcoin, the guys at Bitcoin, they're just going to take all the good ideas and implement it where they can, if it's even a good idea that they haven't already thought of. So like, I just don't see how the landscape allows for the same type of, competition that you'd expect capitalism to, sort of facilitate when everything's open source. Like everyone knows everybody's secrets already.
Well, that's the thing too. Like people forget, like they can just implement that. If it's that game changing, they can just fucking put it on the Bitcoin.
Right? So
and I feel like people just they don't comprehend that because they get so focused on what they like. Like if they really like Ethereum, whatever, they think that's the biggest thing, and that's going to be the game changer in the long run.
Most people don't know what any of this is supposed to do.
Well, I mean, we don't need to get into that. I'm just saying that people just forget about that. Things can be upgraded to do what something else does. If there's like that big of a change that these guys, working on Bitcoin just somehow completely missed, and I don't even know how many devs are working on it, but there's so many of them. And if they missed it, it's like I just don't see it happening. I mean, I think more than anything, like more than anything, they're just better than a lot of other devs that I've seen.
I mean, you're comparing it. Everyone's kind of comparing it to the tech bubble, right? Like all these companies battled it out, and a few of them won: Apple, Facebook, Amazon. But that's because back then we didn't have instantaneous video podcasts that we could share all the information about every project out there immediately to everybody. They didn't have that back then. So understandably, they kept their competitive edge. There's a very different just macro trend that's, I think, it leading to this effect where, this is most likely not going to get toppled. Just like how it's hard for me to reason my way through that. Now, I do want to, promote like collaboration.
Yeah.
Just because, I can empathize a little bit with like Vitalik. So like working on Bitcoin and like I'm sure, he wanted to, make some changes, and it's difficult for some people to just like, it's hard to communicate your idea. You might have the best ideas in the world, but like if you can't communicate them to other people, even if you're right, like you have to explain why you're right.
Right.
And it's perfectly possible that you just didn't know how. And so, from my perspective, I take what Vitalik did is he just gave up trying to collaborate with the developers on, one project that sort of everybody will just kind of keep continuing to improve, and start your own, and that the idea will be that it would compete with them. And I don't know, I feel like I've heard a little bit about how that all went down, but I feel like it was kind of something like that. It's just like, all right, fine, I'm going to go do my own thing, and props to him, number 2 or number 3 now, like he got pretty far. But I think fundamentally, like, why didn't you just stick it out and collaborate?
And the way that I've explained it to other people, though, is that I would rather this happen. Like, I would rather billions of ideas and options come out, and then there's certain things that we can take from one of them and then put it onto Bitcoin. And I'm not like just 100% always Bitcoin. Like, I do see the benefit of Ethereum, and I was super gung-ho about its original aspects in the beginning. Like, I thought it made sense, what they wanted to do, and then all these problems came up, and then Plasma was brought up, and I thought Plasma was going to be really badass. And then, well, I don't know where that is, but then we had Zcash. Zcash has brought a lot of good things, I think, to the space that arguably, if you go down the rabbit hole, Zcash has been here since the CIA, but we're not going to talk about that. But and then you also can look at even EOS. Everyone hates EOS from a certain like standpoint.
Except for the people holding it right now.
Yeah, but it's trying out different ways to make this shit work. And if there can be a way to where all these different protocols look at each other and interoperability, I see the future in that. And that's how I explain to people that it's not bad that all these projects are here and it gets saturated, because in the end, it's going to matter about who wins and who does things right. So
and that's kind of where I want to tie it back to, is like the interoperability. Is that's why I think Lightning Network is such a project, is because it's at a conceptual level. It is right now being used as an extension of Bitcoin, but at its core, fundamentally, it's blockchain agnostic. It doesn't need to be. It actually was on. I think it was on Litecoin first, or like Litecoin's always been.
Litecoin was first. Yeah.
Segwit came out on Litecoin first, which was what you really needed to make the Lightning Network feasible, and then Bitcoin implemented it later. So Litecoin's a good testing ground,
and I think it was on Viacoin too, or Via.
Yeah, I mean, I think Decred's working on it too. It's a spec. It's like you just need to write code that follows the spec, and then you can tack it on to whatever blockchain that you want. So that's what I like about it. Is just like, theoretically, look, if you are Ethereum till you die, like if you just kind of get Lightning Network implemented on Ethereum, then you can interact and transact with all the Bitcoiners. Yeah. So like, there will still be the idea of whose coin is going to be more valuable. Like, how many do I have to give you, or how many Ethereum is going to go? Like the exchange rate, what is that going to be? But like that's going to be determined on the Lightning Network. It's just like, how many people want to buy Bitcoin for Ethereum, and like there's going to be
Lightning Network is the DEX of the future.
Yeah, Lightning Network is the DEX, really. So like you need to, like, fundamental level, you need to just you need to exchange information so much faster than a blockchain allows you to. So you need to go up to the second layer.
Yeah.
And if Ethereum wants to implement this, which I think, from what I can tell about Plasma when I read through the paper, it's basically, there's a move with side chains, which is a whole nother, it's a whole other idea, but it's really a lot of the same. It just introduces mining a little bit more, which is interesting. I don't know if you want to get into that, but the same idea, there's channels, there's layer 2. I think Raiden Network is the Lightning Network equivalent, but again, these are all just words thrown around to explain the same ideas that I think, like, layer 1's slow. It's hard to change. It's more secure. Layer 2 is fast. You can break shit. Don't put money on layer 2 because you might lose it. That's fine. Experiment all you want, but let's have a safe layer to go back to if something goes wrong. So, like, definitely, let's all for it. Let's fight to the death, but let's make sure that we have extra lives on layer 1. We don't lose too much on layer 2. So there's a lot of that, I think, yet to be explored, is the interoperability between blockchains using layer 2.
Well, and I think, Oscar, I definitely want to make sure that we continue to dig into this. I'd love to have you on the show again at some point in time so we can keep these conversations going. Obviously, as progress is made, and really when there's any technical questions, I think you did a fantastic job of explaining things. I know I learned a lot. So, if no one else did, then that's their own problem. But, one thing I want to talk about before we sign off today, because there's been a ton of big news coming out. As of late, we've seen a lot of institutions push into the crypto space, a lot of big players making big statements about crypto. But when it comes to space, there things that I feel are most relevant to the space, Coinbase listing new tokens is right up there with the most important occurrences that could happen, because obviously they are the primary on-ramp for USD, right? So that gives us the fiat on-ramp to buy a lot of what people would lovingly call shitcoins through Coinbase. So they just announced some new additions today, and I don't have them all in front of me. I know Maker was one, Zilliqa was one.
They announced more today? Wow.
Yeah. So, and they've said they're going to announce, they're going to list 30, right? So it's just kind of when do they list which? So I know we've got some theories on that. Connor's got an opinion on which one may be next. So, guys, what are your thoughts just in general? Coinbase adding things other than Bitcoin, ETH, and then the bullshit cap.
It was just a matter of time. If they want to keep up with all the other exchanges, they need to add more coins. Like, who the hell wants to just buy the old Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin anymore? They got to get their virtual mana, their virtual land. I think
I bought some oceanfront property. I'm excited for that.
No, dude, I was actually looking at Mana for a little bit. I thought it was kind of cool, but then it just got way too expensive for me to want to invest in it. But yeah, I mean, when I'm looking at what they're adding, I'm really trying to pinpoint, why they're adding what they're adding. And the only thing that I can put in my head or come up with a reason why is that Brian Armstrong is invested in these companies. So, other than that, I mean, I don't know. They just pick these by a dart, and
I mean, everything's the same in life, right? It's not who you know or what you know; it's who you know, right? Like, I think that a lot of the projects that are getting put on there, you look at Maker, you look at Civic, you look at like Vinny Lingham. For all the bad that people want to say about him, that man is a master fucking networker. Like, put this guy in a room. I've never seen anyone that's interacted with Vinny that's walked away and been like, I don't like that guy. Like, whether you believe in what he does or he doesn't do, or what Civic's doing or what they're not, he is a networker. And I think that a lot of the people or a lot of the projects that are getting listed, they've just got that connection. Maybe Armstrong owns some of them, right? But I mean, I think that the more likely thing is that it's his friends. It's people that he's been in the space with for a long time. It's people that he's rubbed elbows with at multiple different things. He sees them starting to perform a little bit or get a little bit of volume. And I mean, it makes sense from a business perspective. I mean, right now they are, let's see, as for volume.
Well, okay, if you're going to make that argument, then why the hell, like, I mean, I don't own any XRP right now, but why the hell is XRP not on Coinbase?
Because if
it has the most fucking volume out of any coin other than Bitcoin at some time.
But you have to also look at your exposure, right? Like, there's too many questions around XRP, and I know that there are other ERC20 tokens that they're listing.
I think that's I really honestly, like, looking at what was just listed. Like, there's no argument. There's no argument.
So the XRP thing, though, right? It's by far a centralized project that definitely promised returns during their initial coin offering, that has lied constantly to the people that are holding this token. And even though they have a fervent fan base, all of them are fucking clueless, and like, not all of them. There's probably like a couple that aren't, but by and large, most of the people don't even know what they have their hands on, right? So I think XRP dies next year. That I mean, I think that we're going to see a fucking
Not gonna die.
a hell of a band hammer come down. I could be totally wrong, but the SEC, when they swing, I think SEC is their first punch, or the XRP is their first punch.
Do you see? Okay, I don't want to get too far in the argument of XRP. Do you see what they've like done to position themselves like legally? If you like if you followed their company and how they've handled their token, that's not their token, but and like all the money they've raised, like they are trying to get one step ahead of everything. Like honestly, I hate how it came around and what it's not really a cryptocurrency like from the baseline at all.
It's Bank 2.0.
That's right, man. Cash grab.
And
100%.
And I just okay, that's fine. I'm a trader and I'll trade the shit out of it. But like, I mean, I guess that's the only reason why Coinbase won't list it. I know XRP tried to pay Coinbase to list it at one point.
I remember that.
So, I mean, that's sketchy. But, like, at the end of the day, maybe XRP does serve a purpose for international money transfers. I mean, with their XRapid, like, that's to be seen. But right now, what you're holding, what I remember holding XRP in the beginning stages was it was going to be a decentralized banking coin before I looked into like what it was at all. Like that's how it was pitched to me. It was Ripple's coin, and this is going to be like the future of banking. I was like, okay, whatever. It's like under a penny. So
as far as Coinbase goes, I don't know. I always try to kind of visualize these Coinbase because like companies, there's people in these companies.
Right.
So what's going through, like, however many employees are at Coinbase? Like, I was putting myself in their shoes, and they're like, all right, sure, Brian Armstrong's leading the pack here with, he obviously bought in big on Ethereum and then trickled down, I'm sure, into a ton of other coins. But like, I don't see how anyone in that organization would like stand up with a different viewpoint of, hey, we shouldn't, be listing these coins. Because first of all, I doubt it, but I don't see how they're sticking to the regulatory framework that they set out earlier. Like they did this, like, okay, all these criteria, and it's like, I just do not see how that maps to what they're doing right now. But like their business model is transaction fees. They want more people transacting. Nobody's buying, a handful of the top coins right now because the bear markets. So how do they keep their bottom line going? They need more transactions flowing through this network. The only option that they have is to list these coins. So like from a strategic perspective, to keep the business going, what else are they going to do? And who's going to say anything otherwise? Like, oh, it's pretty black and white from, a profit standpoint. It's like you need to increase transactions because that's how you get money. Otherwise, people are going to lose their jobs. So it's between either Coinbase has to fire people or the employees at Coinbase are on board with listing all these coins.
Well, and if you're the government, right? Like, let's say you have the ability to now track all of these trades that American crypto traders are making, because right now, how much tax revenue is actually being lost? So if you kind of cast a blind eye to what Coinbase is doing, what you actually open yourself up to, just to kind of think in this TMAC way of approaching things, you now have actually granted a company the ability to allow these tokens to exchange, whether they're securities or not, doesn't really matter. You're gonna just allow this umbrella to be cast so that you can get actual tax revenue from all of these traders that are going to stop trading ZIL on Binance, and now they're going to go and get it on Coinbase. You're forcing them to a location where things can be monitored more closely. So I think that might be a play. And plus, I mean, honestly, if things are deemed a security and it comes back to be an issue, they're going to get slapped with a cease and desist. It's not like they're going to shut Coinbase down and they're going to make them, pay some huge fine and it's going to be a big issue. they'll slap them on the wrist, give them a cease and desist, and give them 30, 90 days to right the wrongs.
Going back to that T-Mech thinking, conspiracy thinking, Oscar, what do you know about stable coins, specifically the Winklevoss brothers? They just made a new one.
That was very German of you. Did you say Winklevoss?
Yeah. They just made a new ERC20 token that's pegged to USD. And my thinking is that they need, obviously, Tether, as I don't want to get into that, but the U.S. government is basically probing the crypto market with a coin that they control that's supposed to be KYC'd. This coin, if you want to withdraw it to US dollars, you have to withdraw it onto a KYC exchange.
Yep.
So my thinking is that they are infiltrating the market with this, with a blockchain. Obviously, you get to see where this goes and how it's connected to certain addresses. Your names are tied to certain addresses using KYC on certain exchanges. So they're they're using this to basically, one, the Tether FUD, two, they're going to make a lot of transactions off this, and three, they get to infiltrate the market and really see how money is flowing. What do you think? Is that crazy?
No, man. I mean, you think of everything over the course of history. I mean, almost every major move in global economics comes down to a conversation between 3 or 4 people, right? The Federal Reserve was created and implemented over dinner between 3 people in the early 1900s, right? Like, these things don't have to be some massive, widely known strategy. If you want to allow crypto to infiltrate to get a little bit more popularity while still then giving yourself a greater ability to regulate it, this is how you do it, man. This is how you do it. It's exciting to the population, but in reality, you're gaining euphoria and giving up control, just like with everything.
Dude,
right?
I think the governments are going to make their own stable coins, and they're going to bail themselves out, and it's just going to make a huge problem again. But
yeah,
that's
I'm not sure about stable coins. I mean, as far as how they work, it doesn't seem very interesting and probably very difficult to keep this price pegged. I'm not even sure how some of these algorithms work. If it goes up by 10%, if there's markets, you basically have to monitor all the markets, right? I don't know how you could peg this, and add supply or there just seems like
the only one that I really like is Maker. And I'll send you a couple of documents on Maker and get your opinion on it. I would like to, at least, if you want. But Maker has a really interesting stablecoin aspect to it. So
yeah, I can't say that I've actually invested the time to do this, but as far as stablecoins go, I'm not, until I understand the mechanic of how exactly they keep this price peg. I'm not interested. Once I can, if I can actually understand how that works, then maybe I'll be able to form some opinions. But I don't know. I as long as I can keep my dollar. I'm definitely not going to convert I that on Coinbase. Convert USD to USDC. I'm just no. Why?
Why?
Keep my regular government money there. I don't want to do that.
So, guys, I know we're kind of coming up on, we're past 8 already. I want to just end the show. I'm going to go through the coins that have not yet, or the projects, whatever, how the fuck you're going to call them, have not yet been listed on Coinbase.
Oh, that's
right. And I'd like to hear from you guys. You don't have to give a lengthy explanation as to why, but I'd like to hear which you think is going to be among, because we're doing this shit in threes, right? So what's one of the next 3 that's going to be listed? So we've got. I know you do. We've got Cardano, Eternity, who needs a rebrand because what the fuck do you need an A and an E? Anyways, Cardano, Eternity, Aragon, Bread Wallet, Engine Coin, EOS, IOST, Kin, Kyber Network, Chainlink, Omise Go, Neo, Mainframe, Loopring, Poet, Quark Chain, Augur, Request Network, Status, which just laid off a shitload of people, Storage, Stellar, XRP, and Tezos. What do you think, guys?
I think EOS is going to be next. And I say that because its volume's been picking up quite substantially. And not only that, but I think they had a hackathon. I was reading something about they had a hackathon, and Mike Limprez he's a chief policy officer of Coinbase, and he was there last weekend. So, in my opinion, just by looking at the charts, and that kind of information, and the fact that EOS is a really hot coin, I think that's going to get listed. I think XLM.
Wait, just one? Come on, bro. Just one.
Just one.
You got your EOS. Save it for everyone else.
I'm calling EOS then. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Oscar, go ahead, man.
I don't know, man. I think I'm gonna pass on this one.
Set this one out.
I don't know. I just shudder at how much insider trading there's going on at Coinbase right now. I don't even want to help them out.
What about you, Walken? Man.
Well, he started saying it, but I was going to say XLM. Like that's one of the original ones that they talked about, right? Between Stellar and Cardano, and I'm going to go with Stellar because they actually have working shit. So,
I'll go with Cardano just because I have a little.
There you go. That's it. Pump your bags, Oscar. I appreciate that.
And I already broke even on. I pulled out my original investment just in time.
So, I would like to see Mainframe be one of the next listed, but I really think the next one is going to be XLM. So I'm with you, Walken. I think that there's just too much. They've got their DEX launching at the end of December. And obviously they're an incredibly popular coin. They've got the Sharia law thing going for them. There's just from an FA standpoint, and for the ability to open Coinbase up to a different market, really, with the Muslim population. I think that's big. So that would be my pick. I think Stellar's it now. What it will be, who knows? Maybe it'll be EOS, Stellar, and Ripple. I think that if they list Stellar and they don't list Ripple,
I think they're gonna list Stellar before they list Ripple, just so everyone can make a meme out of it. Well, I mean, you have to. That would be hilarious.
How much of Coinbase's marketing capability would go away if they listed XRP? Like every time they list something and they don't list XRP, their impressions have to go up millions. Right?
Yeah.
Go through today, dude. I went through maybe 50 comments, one after the other. No combo breaker. All of it. XRP, XRP, all different people. I don't even know if they're real people, but just it's ridiculous. So. Comment at XRP. XRP
is the future. Oh I'm surprised South Park hasn't made an XRP episode.
The crazy thing in it is like crypto's not big enough yet. Crypto is not big enough even to get a South Park episode.
Well, hey, Bitcoin was on South Park, and it was the funniest shit, dude.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, yeah, I'd like to invest in some Bitcoin. He's like, okay, we're just going to put it over here, and it's going to go right here, and it's gone. There's not much you can say. I mean, that's about it,
Dude, I watched Wreck-It Ralph 2 today with my 3-year-old, and they had the clear lead-in. They were at eBay checking out, going through the methods of payment that you could use, and they bring it up on screen. They put the B emblem, not the Bitcoin B, but it's one, and then they announce some bullshit fake money thing that I was so disappointed, man. I was hoping for the Bitcoin plug to all the 3 to 5-year-olds that were watching.
Right. Yeah. Get those allowances into the order book.
That's right.
Dude, that's future people in our market. But anyways, guys, I mean, if there's nothing else that you guys want to discuss today, I think this is a good time to wrap things up. For those of you that continue to tune in for Miners Oasis, we appreciate you. This is episode 8. We are kicking around the idea of turning this thing into a podcast and getting it on iTunes and Spotify and all that other stuff. If that's something that you would like, let us know. If you would prefer to do this in a podcast format, so you can listen to it on the way to work or on the way home from work, whatever, let us know, and we'll get that underway a little bit quicker. I don't know what our schedule is going to look like for the rest of the year. So just stay frosty. We'll let you guys know when we know as to when we will be on. I do know that very soon we're going to start doing some giveaways. So those of you who like free stuff, you let us know. If anyone is in South Florida tomorrow, we will be doing a meetup. There's the Crypto Degens of South Florida meetup at Glitch Bar in Fort Lauderdale, starting at 7 p.m. going until. So we're gonna have fun. They've got some old school arcade games. You can come. I'll chop you up in Tekken. You can get some. So thank you guys for tuning in, and until next week, we'll see you later.
Bye.
Later.
You guys, thanks.